Hello, 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 citizens of Avina Vlogs and this podcast, the Writer's Corner Podcast. This is your host, author Anthony Avina, here to bring you another episode. We are on episode 33 of the Writer's Corner Podcast here. Thank you if you're listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, or if you're listening to this through YouTube. If you guys haven't subscribed to any of those sites yet for this podcast, make sure you subscribe to YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes so you can hear every week's episode. We try and do an episode every week. Sometimes we take weeks off. Sometimes we'll have more than one episode. So this week we have episode 33, and as you can probably tell from the title, we are talking about writing the next great book series. In this episode, we have a few items of pop culture news from the last 2 weeks because we missed last week's episode. We also have 2 updates on my 2016 Wattpad novel project, which is called Lexington and Fifth. I have weeks 3 and 4 updates for you. I have the Never Smile at Strangers review, and of course, the main headline, How to Develop a Series. I will take you step by step through the process of developing a book series. So, without further ado, here are the podcast. Here's the podcast. First and foremost, Jessica Jones is moving forward with the second season. The popular Netflix series made such big headlines with its gritty noir nature and its really interesting look at both female empowerment and the traumatic experience most women go through at the hands of sexual assault. For its just amazing storytelling and its riveting message, Jessica Jones has been picked up for a second season and will be moving forward. On that same note, rumors are popping up that even though season 2 has not yet premiered, The Punisher, who is going to be featured on season 2 of Daredevil, is set to have his own Netflix series. Now, while there is no confirmation as to this yet, it makes total sense that The Punisher would move forward at that network, considering his own gritty, dark history in the comics, and as one of the few Marvel characters who is both a hero and a killer. So because of that, John Barenthal's Punisher vision might become his own series. Next in our headlines, J.J. Abrams' film company, Bad Robot, recently released a secret sequel to the cult classic Cloverfield, with 10 Cloverfield Lane, starring John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The film seems to focus on 3 people in a shelter of some sort and the creepiness that goes on inside. Now hold on one second here, my page is loading. Here we go, our next headline here. 24 Legacy is a reboot of the very infamous 24 series starring Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. Now, Jack Bauer is not set to star in this new iteration of the show. Rather, a brand new character, played by Corey Hawkins, is set to appear. He's going to be playing a troubled man with a troubled past who becomes a military hero in the Army Rangers. No other details have been released yet, but it looks like a brand new 24 story is about to unfold, and we can't wait to see who the new cast is going to be in this epic series. On that same track, Scream Queens has been renewed for season 2. The hilarious horror comedy starred Emma Watson and Skylar Samuels, and so many more, and with so many open-ended notes at the end of season 1. It's great to see that season 2 is not far behind. As in the infamous words of one of the characters of the show, I got my eye on you, Zayday Williams. Anyways, next item. For you YouTube fans out there, you might get a kick out of this, and I know I am very excited about this news. Colleen Ballinger, aka Colleen Evans, her character, Miranda Sings, is going to have her own original Netflix series. I believe an 8 episodes series order has been brought, and I'm very excited. The show is going to be called Haters Back Off, and it is a Miranda Sings original Netflix series. And with the Netflix brand, I'm sure we're going to see even more insanity from this very quirky, unique character. And the more news will come to you as we get it concerning that episode or that series. Finally, I have a little bit of speculation from Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. A photo appeared just a day or two ago that seemed to show a scene from what is being described as Bruce Wayne's apocalyptic nightmare. Some sort of flashback or, not flashback, but a dream of some sort or a nightmare that Bruce Wayne has in the film of this apocalyptic future where the Earth is being destroyed, these creatures are invading, something bad is happening, and Superman is not in his right mind. And a picture from that scene came out, which seemed to show the Omega symbol kind of etched into the ground. Now, for those of you who don't know the comics as well, the Omega symbol is very, very famous for being the symbol of Darkseid, one of Superman and the Justice League's greatest villains. He's one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe. He's the ruler of a planet called Apokolips, and a lot of the creatures shown in that vision kind of resemble his minions, the parademons. So are we getting a glimpse into the future Justice League film? Are we going to see Darkseid emerge? Is this a future, one possible future that Bruce Wayne is hoping to prevent? Who knows? But I'm sure we'll get more answers when Dawn of Justice premieres in March. Those were your pop culture news headlines. Now let's move on to the Lexington and 5th weeks 3 and 4 updates. First, week 3. As always, I like to put a song with each week, and this week 3 update song is Roses by Outkast. If you guys have not read the chapter yet, chapter 3 deals with Kate, one of Ella's friends from college, and the young woman who is going to serve as bait for this elaborate prank a group of Ella's friends are setting on the guy she likes, Andrew, who is considered kind of a geek. Kate is a little jealous of Ella and her natural beauty and popularity. Even though she herself is very beautiful, she doesn't think she compares to Ella's status. And the fact that Ella would stoop so low, in her opinion, to go out with Andrew really embarrasses and sets her off. So she agrees to go along with her boyfriend's plan to set Andrew up. She disguises herself to make herself look like Ella and is serving as the bait that lures Andrew to this spot where the prank is going to unfold. The chapter is called The Setup, and you guys can go check it out on Wattpad right now to read who Kate is, what her mindset is, and how she plays a role in what's to come. Week 4's song, the update, is Animals by Maroon 5. And this week deals with the actual prank being orchestrated by Greg. Greg is Kate's boyfriend, one of Ella's supposed friends, and he is infuriated with Ella for, first of all, going along with Andrew and being his friend. His friend. And then when he finds out she likes him, he just thinks it's wrong. He believes in the class system. He believes that there are people lower than him, and Andrew's one of them in his mind. This chapter kind of sets up the prank. It actually lets the prank unfold. It also showcases another character that I want to remain a mystery. It's another friend who has a change of heart as the prank gets going, and he tries to stop it, but who knows, will he make it? The chapter is called It's a Trap, and it is going to be published this Friday, so make sure you tune in then to check it out. So those were your Lexington and 5th week updates. Now, here's a little review of a book I just finished reading called Never Smile at Strangers. Never Smile at Strangers is the first entry in the Grand Trespass series by Jennifer Janes. I did receive this book from the author and her publicity group, Book Lover Cat Lady Publicity, in return for a fair and honest review. Now, there is nothing more I love as an author and a reader more than a compelling first entrance into a riveting thriller series. And that's exactly what you get when you read Grand Trespass's very first entry, Never Smile at Strangers. The title says it all, as this over 300-page novel takes readers on a heart-pounding journey to discover a chilling truth that runs deep in the town of Grand Trespass. You get to go into the mindset and the eyes of several young citizens in the town of Grand Trespass, Louisiana. A young girl, suddenly goes missing, and soon a desperate search is underway. But when more of the townspeople begin to go missing, the citizens begin to question one another, realizing that they may not know those closest to them as well as they previously thought. Meanwhile, an unhinged, demented serial killer is living among them, and his deep-seated fear and obsession of women is more complicated 4 years after his mother's death, in which he has had to take care of his very disturbed sister. The twists and turns in this novel made it such an intriguing read. The characters were compelling and fully developed, while the plot took so many fascinating paths that it made the final reveal all the more captivating. What was really fascinating was the heavy emphasis on both the cultural aspects of the small southern town, mixed with the deep psychological issues most people face, from anxiety and depression that comes from loss, to the more violent and scary tendencies of a killer's mind. Broaching the subject of mental health is also a great way to get a conversation started, and made the book that much more enticing, and it's really no wonder why this book made the USA Today's bestseller list. This is a must-read series for me, so make sure you check out Never Smile at Strangers, the first in the Grand Trespass series by Jennifer Janes today. And there you have it. That was my review of Never Smile at Strangers. If you guys would like to read the review and any other reviews I posted, you guys can go to my official blog, authorAnthonyAvita.tumblr.com. You guys check it out. I write reviews. I post my own personal stuff. I sometimes will write in-depth articles. You never know what you're going to get. So why don't you come check it out and tune in. If you'd like to see that and any other of my social media links, make sure you check out the description box on both the podcast, iTunes and SoundCloud, or on my YouTube channel, and go follow me there. Finally, let's talk about the main event of the series, how to develop a series of books. There's nothing wrong with writing amazing one-off books. I've done it before. But there's nothing more invigorating and really revs up the creative juices to, say, than actually developing a great book series. So I'm going to give you a short little guide on how I go about creating a book series. The first thing you want to do is decide on a genre. Now, I know this may seem kind of silly, but I can't tell you how many times I've read a book that describes itself as one genre, and as you keep reading, you realize it's completely, pushes past the boundaries of what that genre entails and goes into a completely different realm. I've read, supposed horror books that took more of a fantasy science fiction element and kind of lost the emphasis on the actual horror element. So it's really important that you decide what genre you want your book series to encompass. And it can include multiple genres, but you have to make sure you set it out from the outright that you include elements of both genres, or all the genres you intend to write in. Once you decide on a genre, you have to create your core characters. You have to come up with at least a couple, if not more, characters that are really going to drive the whole book series. I'll give you an example. When I wrote I Was a Teenage Killer, the book series, or the series is I Was an Evil Teenager. I knew that I had to have the evil teenager, Lisa Etron, and then I had to have at least one, if not more, protagonists that kind of served as the foil to the evil teenager, the one who would rise above and try and defeat the evil that they were, facing. So I created Dave Trent, and I also created a pair of detectives who were consistently there when the evil broke out. So throughout the whole book series, I had at least 4, if not more, characters set throughout the whole series. So it's important that you create your core characters. Make sure you have them all written down, who they are, what their backstory is. That way, you know who is going to be the driving force that makes readers want to read the series. Next, make a general outline. Now, you don't have to do this if this is not how you write. If you like to fly by the seat of your pants, this might not be a step for you if you're as a writer. But for me personally, I like to make a general outline of what the series is going to look like. I like to write down some notes about what I want to happen in each book. I like to write, some notes about what kind of path the core characters are going to go on. I like to have general idea of what kind of path my characters are going to go on. So, if this sounds like a plan to you, make a general outline of what your series is going to entail. Next up, you want to take some notes on any story developments you might go through. As you're writing book 1, make some notes about what kind of story elements popped up that might not have been in the general outline. If you get to book 2, you want those notes there so that you can kind of recall what happened in the first book. That way you have some consistency with your story and character development. If new things arise in book 2, and you are planning a book 3 or book 4, you want to continue writing those notes down so that your story has a consistent flow about it. Next, you want to develop your core characters over time. You don't want your core characters to be the exact same every single book. Your characters should have growth. Your characters need to be going on the same journey that you're going on as you're reading the book. Otherwise, they're just stagnant. You need to have your characters evolve. You have to have them grow, age, something. You have to have something happen that develops your characters over time. Otherwise, what are your readers reading the book series for, And finally, this last step I like to have when I develop a book series is I like to have an end game in mind. All the little details and the little plot developments that happen as I write, those all are great, but I like to have an ending in mind so that as I'm writing, I know that this is the direction my book is going in. I don't want to start writing a book and completely veer off the path only to have to scramble at the last minute, at the last point in my last book, and just kind of rush over some details to make it fit. You know what I'm saying? You guys need to have an end game in mind when you're writing a book series. Otherwise, you're going to be completely lost, and you're going to find your readers are just as confused as you are. So, final important step, have an end game in mind when writing a series. And that does it for me here today, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching this podcast. I hope this helped you guys if you guys are looking to write a book series. And if you guys can think of any other details or clues you'd like included in this list, or if you guys have your own ideas, your own development plan, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section so we can, talk it out. And if you guys are developing a book series, feel free to leave it down below, and maybe I'll give you guys a shout out. Thank you so much for listening today, guys, in the comments below as well. Tell me, as always, what your favorite part of the podcast was and what you'd like to see me discuss next time. Maybe I'll take your suggestions and I'll give you guys a shout out if we discuss your plot or your idea. Give this video a big thumbs up if you're watching it on YouTube, please. Like this video, comment on it, favorite it, and share it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it. It'd mean a world to me. Check that eye in the sky out as well so that you can see today's recommended videos and playlists and the official link for our official merch store. And if you're listening to this on SoundCloud or iTunes, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't yet, and leave your thoughts in the review section. Every review helps. Any positive or negative feedback, we just want to take it in and trying to improve this podcast every week. And that does it. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week with a brand new episode of the Writer's Corner podcast. Long days and pleasant nights, my friends. Goodbye.